Hey there everyone, welcome back to Jimothy Listens. My name's Jimothy, and today we are going to be going through the albums from May 2022 that, in my opinion, are worth listening to. Now, if you've come to my channel for the K-pop content, then 6/7 of this video probably isn't going to be right up your alley, but before you leave, I'd say stick around, have a little look. You might find something interesting, or at least you might get a little insight as to why I am the way that I am. I don't know why that flickered. So, with that being said, let's just get into it. The first album that I want to talk about is the latest album from Rook, Ugly Death, No Redemption, Angel Curse, I Love You. I wanna be best friends and stupid friends. Which is a hell of a title, and it's a hell of an album. This comes from Rook, one half of the incredible Black Dresses. Their album Forget Your Own Face they put out earlier this year is one of my favorite albums of the year, and so Rook coming through delivering a solo album was always going to be something I was going to be into, but this absolutely blew me away. And I think it really has to do with the sound of it. As kind of expected, she mashes a lot of different styles together, things like noise pop and hip hop and metal and industrial music and all of these crazy insane sounds, but they come together to form what really is like a dance album. The major style of this album, I guess, is kind of like club dance music, but it's like club music from hell. Like, it's if you wanted to have the worst night of your life, you'd get the DJ to play this. Of course, Ada's production is phenomenal. It goes hard, it's varied, it's textural, it is just so tasty and delicious. Her performances are incredible. Obviously, we know she's got a heck of a scream on her, and that comes through. We also get some really nice sung portions and also some quieter moments that are really nice. And then the story of the album is amazing too. It's apparently it's a sequel to her previous or last couple albums, which I haven't actually heard, but just listening to this, the sort of world that it sets up and the narrative that it goes through really just had me paying attention the whole time. And I was just sitting there like, oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a wild ride, and sort of just adds another layer to like sink your teeth into while diving into it. It's really cool. It's amazing. It's phenomenal. I would definitely check this album out, even though it's probably not one for everyone just due to how loud and abrasive it can be. And if I had to pick out one song for you to check out, it would be, I think it's the second track. It's 999999999 in a dream. It's 9/9s in a dream. I think that song is incredible. Or the closing track, Shadow Hearts, is also phenomenal. It's all good. Just listen to it. Anyway, moving on. The next album I want to draw your attention to is the latest from Quelle, Deathfame.
So grateful to be alive, but alive ain't always living. Sometimes niggas just survive.
Now, Quelle is a rapper that I've kind of been hearing about and heard like features from and stuff for a couple years now, but I've never dived into his stuff until this album. And I'm honestly really mad at myself that I haven't listened to him sooner, because this album is phenomenal. It's incredible. Easily one of the best hip-hop albums of the year. It sounds amazing. The production is phenomenal. The beats are, super strong and interesting. Quelle's rapping he's on another level. He is absolutely insane. His rhymes and his flows are super interesting and super neat and tidy, but messy and characteristic when it adds to the story. His deliveries are insane. The amount of voices and tones and just different things that he does with his voice is super interesting and makes it really animated and nice to listen to. And then the story of the album is just incredible. Like the title suggests, it explores the relationship between death and fame. It's Quelle looking at his own spot and being like, if I were to die tomorrow, would that make me more famous? Would people start appreciating me more? And it's a very kind of troubling and introspective and also just very contemplative exploration of that theme as he kind of just keeps digging further deeper into this idea, really like imagining his own death playing out and the aftermath of it. It's not light, but it's very, very just gripping and amazing to listen to. It's something that really blew me away when I first listened to it. Definitely one I would recommend to anyone, but especially for hip-hop fans. You don't want to miss this album. It's really good. If I had to recommend one song to look at, I'd look at Alive Ain't Always Livin', which I think is track 2 again. It's And then from there, we are going to the latest from Cali Cartier, formerly known as Aaron Cartier. This is Princess. Now, Cali Cartier, I adore. I absolutely love Cali Cartier. Everything they do just brings me great joy. The album they released last year, Smile Season, was one of my favorite albums of that year. It's phenomenal, and this is just more Cali goodness. It's the Cali Cartier formula, kind of stripped down to its basics and then just expanded in every direction. Of course, it has your classic blown out beats, shrill yelling, and repetitive hooks, and then also like surprisingly good raps to go along with it. Well, not surprisingly, because as we know, Cali's a great rapper, but sort of surprising from the sound of, you'll get what I mean if you hear it, you know. There's definitely songs that kind of just fit that, you know, Best Dog, Smile Season vibe, like the Dylan Brady produced tracks, Get It or Fresh Than a Fish. But then so many of the songs just take on other things. Like there's 2 longer tracks, City and, oh, let me get the track list up. Can't Blame Ya, that's it. Like City and Can't Blame Ya are quite a sort of longer tracks that have a steady build and a more kind of traditional pop structure, but end up in these glistening electronic synth crescendos that are just gorgeous. And then there's other songs like, just looking at the track list, Shelley's Deli, which has almost like a sort of old school hip hop groove to it, but in a very Cali Cartier kind of sense. There's Feeling, which is like lowest common denominator pop at its finest and just bubblegummed to all hell to the point that it's assaulting to the ears. I adore it. There's Don't Stop, which is probably the hardest to listen to song Cali has ever released, with it starting with them just screaming and it's just clipping and blown out and it's painful and I absolutely love it. And then honestly, the most surprising track for me is the closing track, Vertigo, which features the amazing William Crooks and suddenly just gives us like a alternative hip hop sample backed beat, like an Alchemist beat or something. And I don't know where this came from, but I'm so glad it's here because it's wonderful. I love hearing Cali and William on this beat. They sound so good, and I want a Cali Cartier Alchemist collab project. If we could get that to happen, I would love it. Thank you very much. But yeah, this album, it's just everything I want from Cali Cartier. If you're someone who's heard Cali Cartier and hasn't been into them in the past, I doubt that this new album would get you on board. But for someone like me who just loves Cali Cartier, it's just more of what I love. And so I'm very here for it. And if I am recommending one song to listen to, it would be Feeling, the bubblegum pop banger. It's catchy as hell. From there, our next album we're looking at is Super Champon by Otoboke Beaver. Otoboke Beaver, I actually wasn't familiar with before listening to this album, but they are a Japanese all-girl punk band, and God, does this album just have raw energy. It is energetic and devious and scathing and fun and bright and just gives you absolute whiplash. Most of the tracks don't even reach the 2-minute mark. I think like 5 of them are under 15 seconds. It just goes by at a ridiculous pace. This album really just tries to break as many rules as it can, not only in the sort of musical convention with, you know, short tracks just coming one after another, and then in the songs just, you know, constantly switching up time signatures and tempos and everything just going mental, but then also with the content itself, like just from looking at the track names, there's songs like I Am Not Maternal, You're No Hero, Shut Up, Fuck You, Man Whore, Dirty Old Fart Is Waiting for My Reaction. It's just tongue-in-cheek and a bit bratty while also being very just firm and strong in basically not taking any shit from anyone. And it's wonderful to listen to. It's a great album all over. For a song to listen to, it's kind of hard to pick because it's, like I said, most of them are just short as hell and kind of fly by, but I think I would go for Yakitori. I think that's probably the best one to listen to if you're only going to listen to one to get the kind of idea. That one is a good one. I mean, they're all good ones. From there, moving on. The next one is probably one that you might have heard, or at least heard of. It's the new Kendrick Lamar album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers.
You know what?
You're probably already aware of this one. You probably don't need me to really tell you about it, but I wanted to mention it just because I feel like my opinion on it kind of differs from the masses. Even though I think it's a very good album, I have my problems with Kendrick Lamar's music and the whole kind of savior complex going on. Sort of, you know, for a bit of backstory, I did not like To Pimp a Butterfly as much as the rest of the world. I thought the savior complex messaging was quite abrasive and I just didn't really gel with it. And so listening to this album, I got a lot out of it, but a lot of it came in the form of frustration and just really trying to like dig deep into it. I actually, after I listened to this album for the first time, I wrote what ended up being 3,000 words about just my thoughts on it and how it kind of played out to me. If you want to read that, it's on my album of the year page. I'll hopefully remember to link it in the description. But yeah, as much as I didn't find this album as enjoyable as I did sort of frustrating and scrutinous to listen to, it's put together amazingly. And the fact that anything could get me to think about it that much to, you know, write a whole essay about it, it's definitely worth at least a listen. And again, if I'm throwing out one song, I'm gonna say We Cry Together. It's easily my favorite track off the album, which sounds kind of weird to say given what it's about, but I think it's the most well done and the most interesting, and I think it's a great idea that's executed amazingly. That's my song that I would listen to. And then from there we come to our last album, or kind of two albums, and that is the debut from new Korean girl group Classy. Classy debuted in May by dropping not just one EP but two within the space of about 3 weeks. The first one, Class Is Over, is phenomenal. It has 5 songs that each kind of sort of fit a different niche, sort of spanning like the K-pop landscape. It kind of ticks all of the boxes, and each of these tracks is honestly good enough to be the single. It's an album of 5 title tracks, which is I think how they introduced it, and I would have to agree, they all slap. And then suddenly 3 weeks later we got Lives Across, which kind of dropped with very little fanfare. I know since then we've got a music video for Classy, but when this dropped it was kind of like, what? And it's weird because I think Lives Across is honestly better. It's only 4 tracks, but they're a bit more fleshed out, a bit more interesting. They kind of, a few of them go in some like weird directions that you wouldn't quite expect. Altogether, these 2 little EPs just make up a very good debut for this group that I haven't really been hearing enough about. I feel like a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Classy, and that's not right. They're doing some good work. I definitely would be keeping an eye out for Classy in the future. They're definitely a group to watch. And if I'm recommending any song, I think their debut single, Shutdown, is definitely the one to check out. It's good vibes. It's fun. I'm into it. I'm into Classy. Definitely excited to see what they do in the future. And that is it for May. Those are the albums I think are worth seeking out and listening to. What do you think? Is there anything that you think I might have missed? Have you heard any of these albums? If so, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your opinions. Otherwise, I will hopefully see you next month for another roundup, and in the meantime, before then, lots of other things dropping, discussing, blah blah blah. So, like, comment, subscribe, blah 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 blah, and I'll see you whenever. Bye.